So, me and Zero just finished watching Kamen Rider Kabuto Godspeed Love, the movie. So what do you think?
Excuse me a moment.
Just... I like Kabuto, I think it's cool, but this movie was a complete waste of time.
Don't fucking watch this movie. Just don't.
Just, it's a waste of time, do you agree?
Yes. It's more than just a waste of time, it's abysmal.
Let me think here. I mean, there is just one moment that makes this, like, that's the only reason to watch this, is to see that
There's one moment that makes it canon.
But it's at the very end, and you have to sit through 58 minutes just to get the just to see what the point of this movie is about.
I could see watching this movie first and then watching the show.
Oh, well.
But that spoils a couple things, like just writers and like one guy actually is who it. Well, two guys are actually who it is.
Yeah, it spoils a bunch of stuff.
But like, it's not anything like plot related.
Not major in the main series, but it shows why that other series, the main series, happened.
Of all the fucking movies to be canon, this one has to be canon.
Well, we can forget about it just like in the main universe. I mean,
but it's time travel, so
yeah, a time travel plot. So if we spoiled the movie for you, well, you know what? That's probably a good thing, because you're just sitting 55 minutes. I know I said 58, but 55 minutes just to find out. Tendo goes back in time, destroys the original meteor, and now only a small meteor gets into Shibuya. And you said like if they were to watch this movie first, they'd understand things, but this movie would have been a terrible way to introduce them to Kabuto, because it's like they just talk. The action is okay. Just you take
the first half of the movie is set up like. The first 10 minutes is set up to tell you what happens. And then right after that, like the next 20 or so minutes, is either to make you feel bad about a character dying, or to know that, Tendo and somebody else is a double agent. It doesn't.
It's just. We're being clever, and you saw Drake die from regular Neo's Zec Trooper fire, right?
Yeah.
That was stupid.
That was dumb.
Like,
because they get shot like that all the time in the show by Zec.
You're telling me the riders, if you are a Kamen Rider and you get shot by Zec Trooper bullets, you're gonna die from that. Bullshit. Okay.
It's dumb. They shoot riders like that all the time. I think the thing that's really sucks about this movie is they try doing a lot of stuff and it's paced horribly. Like it's like that.
Bam, 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 bam.
The movie's only now. Keep in mind, we didn't watch the director's cut version.
Yeah, 14 extra minutes of whatever I didn't.
It's actually more like 10 extra minutes to be fair, because the movie.
10 extra minutes.
So
an hour and 9
see
minutes.
How those extra 10 minutes can fix things at all.
Those 10 minutes better be the best damn 10 minutes to fix the movie director's cut.
But I'm glad I didn't watch this movie ahead of time, because I actually when I was watching Kabuto, like I said in my Kabuto vlog, I said, At first, I hadn't watched the movie. I did sit down and I watched the first part. Like, it had been chopped up into parts on Facebook. And after I got past part 1, it's just like, I'm not feeling it. I'm gonna stop. But
and you're not gonna sit through this by yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you want someone.
And and then you volunteered, and I said, okay, we'll watch it. And I'm like, I hope it gets better, but...
I want to say I watched this movie twice.
So this is your second time watching it.
And it still didn't make... It made sense in its crazy world. Like, I'm not saying it makes sense. If it's crazy, but... I still didn't enjoy it. I just fell...
It's nice to see the stuff in stuff in a higher quality and them to do something interesting and new, but
this movie...
There's certain things that are inconsistent, like they upped the quality of the cameras because they're film cameras, but the CG looked even worse than it did in the show. I don't know how you do that. How do you make the CG worse in the film?
When you see the CG, you can just tell right off the bat, it's CG.
Like, I mean...
Like, it's so blatantly obvious, it doesn't even try to blend in.
I mean, I even thought, like a lot of people, that the CG, the couple CG shots in space in Movie War Megamax, those were pretty bad. But this is, like...
Even worse.
This is even worse. Like, it's like... And I know they only show CG a couple times in the show for Zectors coming in and for, like, the first transformations.
Which those are okay, standard.
Those actually looked good. Like, the first time Tendo transforms in the show... That looks good, because they do like a 360 or 720 shot around him.
Yeah, and but they don't get points for that, because we saw the main series before this movie, and this movie was made like in the middle of it.
No. I'm talking about the first episode of the series. They do that 720 thing. So that actually looked good. That was cool. And the Zectors, I'll say the Zectors look fine.
Oh wait, the 3 movie exclusive Zectors. Why don't you talk about that? 3 colors.
3 colors, bronze, silver, and gold.
And if you want to be detailed about it, Keitaros, Hercus, and Kokusa.
Kokusa's gold, right?
Yeah, okay, Kokusa's gold.
First, I'll start with bronze.
Keitaros.
This kind of sucks.
He's bronze. Nobody likes bronze.
Just kind of sucked. Like, it looked okay, but just kind of sucked. Silver was my favorite. It looks the best.
Yes, and speaking of Hercus, I bought the movie exclusive Kabuto bracer for the movie, and the one head I put on that bracer was Hercus, the silver beetle. Like, that's the only one that looks cool. That's the only one I actually liked.
Yeah, and it looked cool because it looks sort of like a Neo Kabuto design, which looks cool.
It's like an alternate world. Well, I guess he's in it.
And I actually thought the rider was okay, like the character and the rider, and his final attack's cool too. The rider beat.
Rider beat, but he needs a weapon to do it, so it's not too impressive.
Gold.
Kokusa.
Kokusa's has a mustache.
He looks like a lobster.
Yes.
He looks like a...
Yes.
Yes.
I can't twist it because it's made of metal or plastic, but...
Oh, but I'll clock it up. I mean, he kind of looks like... He kind of looks like a lobster.
He's the one that least looks like a bug, and... Like, the guy was kind of cool when he's in white for 5 seconds, but then he tries to win by being cheap.
Yeah, because...
And...
Oh, speaking of that, the whole movie was, like, for Tendo, it was to build up to him grabbing this Hyper Zector that he somehow knows about, and we never know. It's just, at the last second, it's like, oh, yeah, so you were after my Hyper Zector, were you? Yeah, that was what I was trying to do this entire movie.
Speaking of which, there's one thing that comes up, like, there's lots of opportunities for writers to clock up, and they just don't. Like, first time Tendo comes in and he transforms,
he just punches them.
He just punches them, like...
Not too impressive.
Not anything, but there's, like, other things, like, when he slams the door on Kokusa's, you even said, why don't you clock up to open the door?
Because, like, at one point near the end, Kokusa gets thrown into this, like, space ejection pod area, and Kabuto's about to shut it. He could have just... Oh, the door freezes, and then he just runs out, like...
The other thing, too, is the physics in this movie are so messed up. When you get it mixing space and time together, it's
so much... It's like... Some might say, don't think too hard about it. Well, you know what? This is a vlog about it. We're going to think about it.
There's a battle
in space
before... he fights the other one later. The gold one. And
he fights with the bronze one.
Let me finish my sentences.
Sorry.
Jama.
Well, clock it up.
So he fights bronze, and they hit a window or something, and the air gets flown out.
Oh, it's
space,
a door.
Whatever. And they fly. They're flying, and then they clock up, and then all of a sudden,
Gravity
it's regular
stops.
Gravity. But it doesn't matter how high up you are on this tower. First of all, this is a tower that goes from Earth to space. That wouldn't work at all.
It would take some good ingenuity. But
It costs a lot of money, a lot more money than I think Zek would own after a apocalypse. I don't even think you can make a structure that could go past the equator like that.
Yeah, because then it would start tipping over, and
exactly.
then like it would fall off.
Exactly, unless you really reinforced it later on, but it looked the same the entire way.
Or unless you build the ground base and then build the top and then have them connect, because if you just had one going up, it would eventually tip over.
Let me put it this way. It looks as ridiculous as Dr. Wily's space shuttle in Mega Man 10, if anybody's gotten there, because you literally just go up into a space shuttle, a tower that hangs over the... You can't do that. That's physically impossible. But anyways, the fight... Like, they clock up, and, like, the air's pushing them out because the air's making them...
Because they blew a hole in the ship, and somehow this doesn't cause anything to happen with
the ship. They clock up, and then they're suddenly finding their own regular gravity. First of all, they'd be getting pulled the fuck down to Earth from that distance, because they're so close to...
They're close enough.
They're so close to Earth's gravitational pull, it's ridiculous. And there's no gravity in space. How do you fight with normal gravity in space just because you're clocked up?
Unless the clock up somehow did something, but you know what? But the clock up has been established. It just makes you move faster.
Yeah, which doesn't make sense that it makes them move normal in space where there's no air, because it doesn't stop the air from going. And if there's no air, you can't stop anything. If there's zero gravity, there's zero weight
and zero force.
Exactly.
So if you try to punch something,
it's like, what's keeping them there? I know we're looking into like physics, especially when there's Power Rangers where people can breathe in space, but which like Toku beats physics with a bat,
and it's done for cinematic sakes.
But I mean, really, like, it's just how Tendo gets the hyper sector is like really cheap. It's like, that's mine. And then what he does with it is worse.
Yeah, it was kind of cheap, but then it wasn't it was kind of in a sense it kind of makes like I was willing to accept it. Like, it looked goofy, but I was willing to accept it. Like, Kagami was holding the Gold Rider down, like, Tendo, grab the Zector. I was like, okay. He didn't do it like super fancy like always.
Also, let's talk about Tendo for a moment.
Oh wait, I want to go back for a bit.
Okay.
Okay, you know how you're saying the gravity of the Earth's gravitational pull would have pulled something down? Wouldn't it pull the space station down too?
Exactly.
So physically, that thing shouldn't even be there unless it's a satellite.
Exactly. Like, the thing, like, you can't do that. You can't build. Maybe sometime in the future there'll be technology for that, but you can't build. First of all, how do you get people up there to build that part of the space station?
You could, but
there's
not like that.
There's a fine line where you can't stay stationary in, like, because
and then connecting the towers.
Yeah. It's how do you get people to go in space to build it, because there's a spot where it's not possible, somewhere in the
somewhere
equators,
down the line,
or whatever the
length of it.
No, the Earth's
rotation.
The stratosphere and all that stuff, and the sections of those points of gravity that surround the Earth that make it so that we have gravity and that we don't go floating everywhere. There's a point where it forces you down. So, like, no matter what you do, like, unless they have some sort of anti-gravity thing in their suit,
rocket boosters.
But to be fair, a rocket booster for a builder would not be powerful enough to keep them up there.
Oh, I'm saying, like, you know how space shuttles need lots of fuel and rocket to blast through it? Because at one point it'll be really hard to get out.
But yeah, that's a space shuttle. A little jetpack on a guy isn't going to do it. Unless you gave them all jetpacks the size of those rockets that they put on.
What about foes?
Foes, see, when he flies... see, here's the thing. Like, when he flies people into space, he always goes into a portal.
Oh.
In most cases, like, whenever he flies someone into space to attack them, it's usually a portal. Okay. So, that's how they get around it. So, technically, it's more accurate than...
Or it's less... Or more believable.
Yeah. Like, it's a space-themed series, so they had to be really...
goofy about it.
Goofy, but they tried to make it as physically possible as they could. Like, people can't breathe on the moon in that show.
Yeah, they had to wear space suits.
Yeah.
And anyways, and you know, in the part where Tendo and that other guy, I forget his name, Oda, were driving through the Zector's base, and they were all shooting at them, and it's like, Transform!
All they did was swerve a little bit.
They did.
That's gonna dodge the shot. Either the Zect troopers are stormtrooper accuracy,
The Japanese version.
or they're getting extremely lucky. Like,
and neither of them are believable.
Or number 3, it's a fucking movie.
Yeah.
But no, that's with this one you really have to just suspend your disbelief. And if you're a fan of Kabuto, or you're trying to get into Kabuto, I can't recommend this movie to anybody.
I wouldn't either. Like, only if you're hardcore about Kabuto and watch it once.
If you're really, really hardcore about Kabuto, and you will like anything they make, and you'll like this movie.
Or you want to know more about it, as I should say. Like, you really want to.
If you're really curious, and you want to, like, I guess it'd be good, but it really just, like, the more I think about it, the more, like, I'm like...
The more pissed off you get.
The more pissed off I'm like, why would you do that? Like, what... That is... Basically, they're saying Dune is the distant future of Kabuto, and what they did is they went back in time, and they Doc Browned it so they could make a different show.
Where it made the main show that was watchable.
Also, speaking of that, so many series, and this too, think that time is in a straight line. Time is all fucked up. It doesn't work in a straight line. Like, suddenly when Nintendo goes back and changes time, everybody's like, oh, this timeline doesn't exist anymore. I guess we're snowing away. Literally snowing away. That's not how time works. They'd still exist in their own universe.
Yeah, he'd just be in a different timeline that wasn't affected by the thing. But it depends on how you look at it. You can look at it as multi-timeline or single.
You know what I realized? Every time we talk about Kabuto, we get into quantum physics.
I know, this is terrible.
But I can't help it, because Hyperclock Up just kind of fucks everything up.
And the scriptwriters never utilize it. It's just whenever it's convenient.
It's just, ugh. Don't watch this movie. If you have any respect for Kamen Rider at all,
or just specifically Kabuto, or actually movie cinema.
If you have respect for cinema, Kamen Rider, Tokusatsu in general, don't watch this movie. If you're curious, go ahead, but
or here's a suggestion: just watch the last 5 minutes of it, minus the credits.
Now, I'm a guy who's pretty open about stuff. I like a lot of stuff that people don't like in terms, especially in Toku, but I can say wholeheartedly that this movie was awful and it should have never happened.
And also be noted, I think noted earlier that you didn't get into Kabuto, the main series, but eventually you stuck through and you enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Kabuto, like I said in my Kabuto video, it's a good series. It's not my favorite, but it's a pretty fun series. This kind of fucks everything.
It's just...
It's retcon. This movie's retconned in my mind because there's no other way.
I mean...
The thing is, like, it's hard to determine the canonicity of Kamen Rider movies because they can basically take place anywhere. But of all the movies to try and be canon, this one has to be.
And we can't do anything about it. It is canon by the creator. And, okay, is there anything that we did like about this movie? I like the fact that it was set in an alternate universe. And Hercus, the Silver Rider.
The alternate universe thing was originally what turned me off from it, and I think that was a good warning.
Oh, I kind of like the change of stuff, so that's just going to be opinion based. I would say I like the thing where probably the thing where it explains certain aspects in the main Kabuto series. Because they made that canon, so now it explains a few things. Like, where did Hyper Kabuto come from? Why is this happening? What's going on? It's like, oh, because this happened elsewhere.
Toei retcon this movie. Make a better one. This goes up there with worst Kamen Rider movies ever with Movie War Core. At least Movie War Core had something going for it. It had the flashback with Skull, which if you watch Double or you're a fan of Double, you wanted to see. But this, like,
waste of time.
It's a waste of time. If you're really curious, watch the last 5 minutes.
Just for the thing that it's trying to point out, the explanation of why the main series.
Because the rest of the movie is pointless.
It's just filler, building up to nothing.
Well,
I don't think we have anything else to say about this movie. Just like...
Fuck this movie. Don't watch it.
Yep, don't watch it. Clock over.